What's going on, everybody? Jamel Gibbs. Welcome to today's live. Today, we're going to talk about wholesaling real estate. I did a poll over the last couple of days, and the vast majority of you guys wanted to get into wholesaling. And I got to say that wholesaling is one of the best ways to start your real estate investing business in today's market. The reason for that is because it doesn't require you to tie up funding in order to be able to make this happen. You can start with a little bit of money. So when you hear people say you don't need money to invest in real estate, that's kind of true, but it's not. Let me explain. So when it comes to wholesaling real estate, you do need money to find the deals. You do need money to have to use as down payments on properties. Doesn't have to be a lot of money. It depends on how motivated the seller is. We'll talk about this in full detail. But you don't need money to buy an actual house. All right. Now, in some cases, and we're going to dig into a lot of the laws that are changing right now. We're going to talk about, why you do need money in some cases, but why it doesn't have to be your money. In some cases, you do need to actually bring money to the table to close the deal, but don't let that scare you away. You can be absolutely broke right now and still have the money to buy a house. I'm going to explain how that works. So if you're brand new, this live that we're doing right now is for you. If you're already wholesaling real estate, you flipped a couple of houses, you've wholesaled a couple of houses already, this is for you because there's some changing things that's happening in the business that you need to be aware of. But in addition to that, if you are a veteran real estate investor and you've been out of the business for a little while and you just want to get back into the game, this is for you. This is what's working right now in this market that we're currently experiencing. We're in a buyer's market in most of the country. Now, you guys know I'm a huge advocate of telling you that real estate is a very local business, which is absolutely true. Let me give you an example. In one section of my local market, it's a pure buyer's market. But I own a couple of houses in another part, which is about 20 minutes outside the city. That's a flat market right now. That means it's not a buyer's market or a seller's market. It's a flat market. So it can go either way. In other areas, like let's say Charlotte, for example, you're in a buyer's market. But in some areas, you still have bidding wars going on. And that also depends on price range. Usually if a house right now is listed below the median price range in your local area, it's probably going to have multiple bidding wars on that property. So price range will dictate if the market is a seller's market or a buyer's market as well. So there's a lot of information we're going to talk about. I want you guys to leave your questions. I want you guys to leave here understanding exactly what you need to do to get out there and make things happen for yourself. I want you guys to, if you have any deals, I want to help you structure the deals. We're going to take the next hour or so really covering everything you need to know. We'll hop into the Q&A. But more important than all of this information, guys, what I really want you to understand is what it's going to take for you to be able to get from where you are to where you want to go. If you have a 9-to-5, I want you to keep your 9-to-5. That's counterintuitive to what a lot of people tell you. Your 9-to-5 is income right now. It's promised income. It's not hopeful income. Real estate is hopeful income. So your 9-to-5 is taking care of your bills. But guess what? Your 9-to-5 is also your first private money lender. So not only is it going to fund your personal circumstances, if you make enough money, it's probably going to fund your marketing costs, for example, that $500 that we talked about in order to get real estate going. It's probably going to fund that, your real estate and business, your real estate investing business in general. All right. What I really want you to understand is that this business is going to change lives, but you don't want to leave sure income for hopeful income. You don't want to leave that promised income because then you'll be in trouble. A lot of people come into real estate and they have a dream of leaving their job. That's perfectly fine if that's what you want to do. But again, I'm a huge advocate of keeping your income that you have and adding real estate on in addition to that income until, this is a big until, your real estate business is big enough to allow you to leave that 9 to 5. Once your real estate business produces more than that 9 to 5, and that 9 to 5 is preventing you from growing as a real estate investor, and you know you can scale without the 9 to 5, without the job, then it's time to leave. Until then, be smart. You got a family to take care of. You got food to eat. You got bills to take care of. So be smart. Don't just get up and leave. I've seen people do it, and it's always disastrous. So just remember, you're doing this for family. You're doing this to change the trajectory of your future, for your family's future, to build generational wealth, whatever your personal goals are. But it's going to take work. It's not an easy business. I'm not here to sell you a pipe dream and tell you, look, you can flip a house in the next 7 days. Some of you can, but it really depends on skill sets. And that's exactly why you're on this training right now, to build the skill sets that it's going to take to be able to get from where you are to where you want to go. Some of you is going to take a little bit of time. Don't give up. Don't give up. Push. If you made 10 offers, make 10 more. The average person that gets a deal in America right now makes about 30 to 40 offers before they get their first contract. Let me repeat that. The average person who gets their first deal makes 30 to 40 offers before they get their first contract. So if in 6 months from now, you've only made 20 offers, whose fault is that? Now, I'm not here to point fingers. I'm just providing you with facts so you know what to look forward to. It's going to take time. You got to make offers. If you're not making offers, you're not going to make any money. So let's be real about this, okay? So we got to push. We got to work super hard. We got to let's expect to talk to 5,000 people. Let's expect to make 100 offers before we get our first one. And who knows, within that first 100, you might get 10 deals. It really depends. But understand that this is a numbers game. So the person who's responsible for changing their lives is you. Okay, let me repeat that. The person who's responsible for making sure they're educated, for making sure they make enough phone calls, for finding enough deals, for making enough offers, for hiring a team, for setting up their real estate business, for maybe hiring some professional help, coaches and things like that, is you. You're responsible. You're responsible for your future. You're responsible for your family. Put the weight of the world on your shoulder and get out there and take action. Not just minimal action. Minimal action is going to get you minimal results. Enough action, just enough, is going to get you just enough income. You don't want to take minimal action. You don't want to take enough action. You want to take massive action. Massive action is going to bring in that massive income. So go to war. Make it happen. Be ready to fight for what you want. Get out there and do it. And that's how you're going to get to the bag. So over the next hour, I'm going to lay it all out for you. I got about 7 sections that we're going to talk about. There's certain areas where you want to be careful when it comes to wholesaling. I'm going to get into some of that. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. I'm not here to provide you with legal advice, but I'm going to tell you what works. I am a qualified investor. I've been doing this since 2002. This is probably my 5th or 6th market cycle within that time period. I've been through the ups, through the downs. I've lost a lot of money. I've made a whole lot of money, and I'm definitely qualified to talk about this. So buckle up, take a lot of notes. With the notes that you take, again, I can't stress this enough. Be ready to take action. Be ready to fight for it. And that's how you're going to get the wins that come along with the business. All right. So ask all your questions in the chat bar there. I'm going to get to those questions once I'm done with the training part. I want you guys to pay really, really close attention to what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to get into a lot of nuances. We might, depending on the time that we have, We might do some screen sharing. I'll kind of show you guys how to do certain things. It just depends. But I'm excited, man. Who's excited? Leave a comment in the comment section. Who's excited about this? Let's get the chats up. Let's start talking in the chat section a little bit more. Who's excited about this? I am. I know you guys are, and I'm looking forward to the information that we're going to cover. So, first things first, what I want to talk about, I want to talk to the brand new people. If you're brand new here, you don't know what wholesaling is. Let me explain what that is first, okay? So wholesaling is a strategy where you get a property under contract at a discounted rate. So let's say the market value of a house is $300,000, but the house has some type of physical distress or financial distress. It can be one or you can have a distressed seller or you can have a distressed property. But for the purposes of what we're talking about here, let's say that the house has some type of physical distress, meaning it needs work. It's been neglected. Nobody's living there. The grass is growing. The windows are getting old. The roof is starting to leak. It has an old kitchen, old bathroom. It needs some tender loving care. Would you expect for that house to be worth $300,000 along with the other houses that are selling for that house, for that same price range in that local area? And those houses don't need any work. Would you expect, and leave a comment in the comment section. If you're brand new, I want you to understand this clearly. Would you expect a house in a neighborhood where homes are selling for $300,000 and they're in tip-top shape, but this house needs a whole lot of work? It's not bringing in any income, needs roof, needs cosmetic work, all of this stuff. Would you expect that house to be worth the same amount as the other houses that are fixed up in the area? What do you guys think? Leave a comment in the comment section. Leona Valentine, no, I wouldn't. That's right. So now I want you to keep this in mind. If I'm an investor, am I in business? If I'm an investor, am I in a nonprofit business? Do I run a nonprofit organization? Leave a comment in the comment section. If I'm in business and I'm an investor, do I run a nonprofit organization? What do you think? Do you expect to be paid, or do you expect to buy someone's house and not make any money on it? King B the Great says nope. Carl Higgs says no. Ira Nye says no. Carrera says what makes sense. Exactly. So let's talk about this again. I'm trying to simplify it as much as I can. I'm talking to a beginning real estate investor right now. I have a house. I find a house in an area where houses are going for $300,000. Those houses are in tip-top shape. This one is not. Plus, I'm in business to make money. This house needs work. Can I pay $300,000 for that house? Again, it needs work, and I need to make a profit. Can I pay $300,000 for that house if other houses are only going for $300,000 in tip-top shape? No. Right? So we got Jair Murphy says no. Nikaria Fearon says no. The answer is correct. No, I can't. Now, on top of that, I'm going to have some holding costs on this property. Well, I'm not, but the person I sell it to is going to have some holding costs. I'm going to sell my contract eventually. I'm going to get to that in just a second. That person is going to have some holding costs. So they're going to expect to pay a little less for that property. So I got to factor that number in as well. And I'm going to provide you with a formula that actually works. It still works in today's market. I use it every single day. We're going to get into that. How can you make a profit on a house that need some work. You're looking for the eyesores. You're looking for the properties that, maybe other houses in the area are really nice. This one is not. And every neighborhood has them. Just about every neighborhood has them, especially if the neighborhood is old enough. All right. So I'm going to show you I'm going to pinpoint exactly how to get there. So in layman's terms, wholesaling is having the ability to find discounted real estate, properties that have a problem properties, let's call it that. Being able to contract those properties. So you sign an agreement to purchase that property from the seller. And then what you're doing is you're going ahead and you're going to sell your agreement, not the house, to someone who can pay more than what you've agreed to purchase the house from with the seller. So they're going to give you a profit. So again, just to simplify that one more time, you find a discounted property, you put it under contract. Once you put the house under contract, you market the contract for sale, not the house. I'm going to explain why in just a second. And then you find someone who will pay more for your contract than you paid, and the difference is your profit. You don't need money to do that. You might need some money to find a deal, but you don't even need that if you use some of the strategies I'm going to talk about today. Very minimal money. I said $500 for a reason as I was marketing this YouTube live. You don't need credit because you're never going to borrow money to be able to purchase the property. You need very little experience. I started this when I was 21 years old, back in 2002. I didn't have any experience. I was living in the projects. Nobody in my family owned a house. And I was able to put deals together. And you really don't need a lot of anything else. You don't need all of the software and resources and everything else everybody's talking about. You don't need any of that stuff right now. You need to get money in first before you start spending money on stuff like that. I will say you will need education, or you need to be willing to get out there and get dirty. So because you're going to invest, that education money is going to come in one way. It's going to be an expensive seminar to learn. And when I say seminar, I'm talking about getting out there and making mistakes. I'm not talking about a real estate guru trying to sell you a seminar. You got expensive seminars learning on your own too. Or you're going to need, there's cheat courses out there. I'll talk about that stuff later on. Gather enough information, but more important than any of that stuff, take action. When I first started, there were no courses. We had Carlton Sheets, but he wasn't talking about wholesaling real estate. He was talking about creative finance. So I couldn't go that route. I couldn't even afford a $250 Carlton Sheets course in 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002 when I started. Couldn't afford it. I was young and broke, right? So what did I do? I made mistakes, and it took me several years to really be able to figure it out. That's my story. That doesn't need to be your story. You can get out there, and especially with all of the technology we have and with the the information that's out here, even on my YouTube channel for free, you can get out there. I've seen people go out there, take videos off of my YouTube channel and actually do deals. That can be you. You just got to be ambitious. This is for the ambitious. This is not for the weak at heart, the faint at heart. You got to be willing to put in the work at first. But it's like a rocket ship, right? It takes a lot of force to get out in space, but once you're there, you float, right? Your business is like that. What you're building is like that. It's going to take a lot of force to get off the ground as a wholesaler or as a real estate investor, but once you're there, you can float. I've been floating for years, and you can as well, right? So that's what wholesaling is. The ability to find a property at a discount, put it under contract, and then you got a couple of exit strategies, which we'll get into. Some of them will cause legal issues these days, and we'll talk about that as well. So stay tuned. Don't leave if you want to know this information. And Once you get the property under contract, you have the ability to sell your contract for a profit, or you can go about it a different way. And we'll talk about that. So you don't need to renovate houses with this. You don't need to fix properties up. That's not what we're talking about today. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need to borrow hard money. And, we're not going to get into all of that stuff. If you guys want that, that can be a whole nother training. You don't need to be a heavy negotiator. You don't need to be the best. You need to be yourself. People do business with people they like and trust. Old school sales training. People do business with people they like and trust. So really all you need to be is you. And there's a portion of people out there who's in a situation that they need to get out of right now. Not want. They need. Two different feelings. They need to get out of this situation, and their personalities will match with yours, and they'll give you the deal. It doesn't even matter if somebody offered them more money. Trust me, it happened to me over 1,000 times. Okay. So what's some of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to wholesaling real estate? Well, one of the biggest misconceptions, I see this question on my channel a lot, is you need a license to do this. And that can be true in certain areas right now. Laws are changing in certain areas, and it's a growing issue in the real estate investment community. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But in majority of the country, you do not need a license to wholesale real estate. And if you did need a license, so what? Just go get the license so you can get to the money. It's that simple. Let's not make a big deal out of this. Don't fall for the shenanigans that some of the YouTubers will play. Okay? They just want to stir up hype in order to be able to get you to watch the video at the end of the day. So what I need you to do is focus on what you want out of this business. Know what you want before you come in, but then stay focused on the task, not the noise. Okay? Because the noise will have, you'll start second guessing what you're trying to do. And then before you know it, you're not even going to do a deal. It's just going to neg you out of the business. All right. So that's one of the misconceptions. You need a license to do this. And then another misconception is that wholesaling is illegal. And no, it's not. With the exception of one state, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. They're trying to completely abolish wholesaling and the way it's practiced. But that's just a bill right now, which means it hasn't been passed. And I'll give you a spoiler. It's West Virginia. Okay. It's the only state where they're actually trying to abolish wholesaling. So what do? There's plenty of other states. If you live in West Virginia, perfectly fine. Go to Virginia. Now, Virginia has some laws that's in place right now as well. But, again, you can still practice wholesaling there. Okay. So is wholesaling still legal? Yes. But in a lot of areas, you have regulations that you want to abide by. For example, in Illinois, you're allowed to do 2 per year, but you got to have a license in order to do it. Oklahoma, there's some laws. Oregon, there's some laws. Pennsylvania now, at first it started off with Philadelphia, but now it's the entire state of Pennsylvania. They want you to be licensed. North Carolina, where I live, just came up with a new bill. Not law yet, but it's a new bill. South Carolina just passed some laws. Virginia. So as you can see, it's a growing issue. In Atlanta, there's some marketing stipulations. You can't contact a seller within a certain period of time. They can send you a fine for that. So you do want to be familiar in your local area. We're not going to go do a deep dive into all of that today. Just know wholesaling is legal. You can do it. And I'm going to share a way where no matter where you do it, it can be done, even in West Virginia. So we're going to talk about that. Stay tuned. Trust me, you're going to enjoy this. So there's a couple of different exit strategies when it comes to wholesaling. So we talked about having the ability to be able to find the deal. We're going to get into some of those nuances in just a minute. Being able to put the house under contract. And by the way, if you're in New York State, you need an attorney to put the house under contract. The reason for that, let's just put it this way. In New York State, I used to be a real estate broker in New York City. In New York State, it can take multiple months to be able to close a deal, but they will not transact a deal or sign an agreement or anything unless you go through an attorney. Okay. So keep that in mind if you're in New York. And that's a big reason why I don't invest in New York. That's a big reason why, even though you can make a lot of money on appreciation in New York, I'm not a fan of, New York tenant landlord laws. I'm not a fan of New York's, the way the real estate commission operates there. So I stay out of New York City, New York in general. All right. But everywhere else, you can sign an agreement direct with the seller. And when you do, there's a couple of different options for you. You can do what's called an assignment of contract. That means it goes back to what we were talking about in the very beginning. You can literally sell your contract. So I'm going to sign this piece of paper. It's my American Express envelope, but say this is a contract. I can sign this contract with the seller, and I can go and sell this contract. Let's say I wanted to sell this contract here and make a $10,000 profit. I can sell this piece of paper and make $10,000 if somebody's willing to buy it. We're going to talk about how that works. You can also do a double close. So in some of these areas, they're cracking down on assignment of contracts in the way that wholesaling is originally practiced. So you have to do a double close. This is where you bring some money to the table. But there's companies out there who will offer what's called transaction funding. And they'll charge you, 1%, let's just call it 1% of the deal of the amount that they're funding. So let's say that you were able to get that $300,000 house for 120 grand, and somebody's willing to buy it for 150 from you. You make a $30,000 spread. Baked into that $30,000 spread, you got some closing costs because you got to actually close the deal and then sell it the same day. So baked in, let's say that costs you $3 to $5 grand. Let's call it $5 grand. You walk away from the entire thing with $25,000, right? But baked in, you got your transaction funding fee, where someone will actually fund the deal. You pay them 1% for the money. They'll fund the closing costs and everything for you. You ain't got to bring nothing to the table. Then you sell it the same day, and that buyer's money will pay back the original transaction funder and provide you with the profit. Does that make sense? Now, I've been in situations where, just recently, as a matter of fact, I borrowed some transaction funding on a deal. And it was on a piece of land that I was wholesaling. I was on vacation. I made like $15,000 on this land. But we used two different attorneys. The buyer didn't want to use the attorney that we had. So it took us some time to be able to close the deal. So all I did was pay another 0.5 point to my lender in order to be able to fund that deal and extend. It took us like another 3 weeks to be able to close the deal. So that can happen as well. You got to make sure your lender is on board with something like that. Okay. But for the most part, lenders want you to have a buyer lined up before they fund the transaction. So keep that in mind. All right. If not, there's some things that they can do in order to be able to get their money back. So you definitely want to make sure you got your buyer lined up in advance. You also have other ways you can joint venture. You guys have been hearing me talk about joint venturing a lot lately. That's because it doesn't require any money. You don't even need a deal. You can just bring one side of the deal to the table. So in most of you guys' case, go out and find some buyers first. Right? So how do you find buyers? Very easy. Go to some Facebook groups. This is simple. There's other ways to find. I'm trying to keep it. There's more advanced ways, obviously, to find buyers. But I'm trying to keep it relatively inexpensive for Anybody, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, whatever, go to Facebook groups, go to Craigslist, go to the We Buy Houses section on Craigslist. Somebody give me a market where you're looking for buyers at right now. I'll pull it up and see if I can show you guys how this actually works. Somebody give me a market. New Jersey. All right, fine. So I'm going to pull up New Jersey. Just give me a second. I'm going to Craigslist.com or .org. All right, let me show my screen. Let me present my screen, share screen. Let me share my screen real quick, guys. Hold on. Craigslist.org. Can everybody see my screen? Just leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know that you can see my screen, please. Somebody said, do people still sell their houses on there? I don't use Craigslist. I've never used Craigslist to find deals ever. But I have used Craigslist to build relationships. Perfect. So you can see my screen. So on Craigslist, I'm going to go to New Jersey. So let's go to US states. We're going to go down to Craigslist. Just so you guys know, Craigslist is a gold mine. People sleep on Craigslist. So I'm going to encourage you not to sleep on any resource. It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's a dinosaur website. If people are still visiting, it's still up for a reason. Don't sleep on it. But Craigslist is a beast. I've been using it for over 20 years, still making money on Craigslist, building relationships through this thing. Let's go to New Jersey. Right here. I know King Be Great just so happens to be, I'm not going to blow up who you are, but I know for a fact that you happen to be in the Northern Jersey area. So I'm going to select North Jersey. Did I get that about right? King Be Great. You're in North Jersey, right? Dean McWilliams. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna choose Cincinnati next. As a matter of fact, that's gonna be my next one. So King Be Great is one of my coaching clients. That's how I know who it is. But we're gonna select real estate for sale in New Jersey. So you can see, people are obviously still selling real estate and listing real estate on Craigslist, right? So this is 482 listings right here. But we don't care about that. As a matter of fact, I just saw something. Just kind of scrolling through. I saw a big for sale sign on a commercial looking building. Hold on a second. Right there. 10,000 square foot building. Let me see. How much are they at? $450,000. We might have to look into this. But anyway, I'm not focused on a real estate for sale on this. What I'm focused on, I'm going to select the drop down. I want to go to real estate wanted. The first thing you want to do when you're wholesaling real estate, once you know what your goals are and things like that, start finding buyers, right? Line up the money, line up the buyers first. And then you start finding out what they want, especially when it comes to joint venturing, which is exactly what we're talking about right now. When it comes to joint venturing, the reason why it's important for you to find your buyers first is because it's easier to find buyers than it is to find sellers. The caveat to that is when you're finding sellers, you have control of the deal better. But let's say you don't have a lot of money and you're able to find buyers, which everybody watching this right now has the ability to go out and find buyers. So you put yourself in a position to build relationships with buyers first. You find out what they want. Once you find out what they want, you go ahead and you start finding those other wholesalers in the vicinities where the cash buyers want to buy, but they can't find any buyers for their deals. You network with them, put two and two together. You guys split the profit. Everybody's happy, right? So I'm going to select real estate wanted from the drop down menu. And look, we have 32 posts that will allow me to reach out to different buyers in northern New Jersey. We buy houses cash. Some of these are going to be repeat, and that's perfectly fine. That means that this person is even hungrier. They got their phone number on here, email address, all of that stuff, right? So if I click on one of these ads, guess what? Show contact information. I'm blowing this guy up on YouTube. Guess what? At the end of the day, this is public information, but this is a guy in northern New Jersey. If you're in northern New Jersey and you want to flip houses, contact this guy. I don't even know who this is, but he should be thanking me later. So, and look, he speaks Spanish. He's in Nueva York. All right. So look, at the end of the day, start where the buyers are. You can do the same thing on Facebook. Join Facebook groups in northern New Jersey. Introduce yourself. Sometimes they don't want to talk to you. That's perfectly fine. Keep being persistent. All you don't need 1,000 buyers to do this. You need 3 to 5. 3 to 5 buyers will change your life for the rest of your life. Guaranteed. I've been doing real estate since 2002. I can count on one hand how many people I've actually done business with when it comes to wholesaling. 5. So find 3 to 5 buyers. They will buy everything from you if they're real buyers. Okay. Now, when you're contacting these buyers, a couple of questions that you can ask, where are you currently buying? And I'm simplifying this. You want to have more of a conversation. If you watch any of my recent videos, you'll see I've been talking about this a lot. So watch my videos over the last couple of weeks, and I go into a little more detail on this stuff. But where are you currently buying? What type of property are you currently buying? What price range are you comfortable in? Can you buy more than one property per month? And how fast can you close? So let me repeat that. Where are you buying? What are you happy buying right now? What price range? How many of them can you buy per month? How quickly can you close? That's all you need to know. So now that you have that arsenal, you can talk to a buyer, have a real conversation, a regular conversation. Don't make it a questionnaire, make it a conversation. Build a real rapport, build a real relationship with them. Make them feel like you're interested in what they're talking about, right? There's a phrase, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? That means listen more than you speak. And get out there and just take action. Find 3 to 5 of those people. I guarantee you contact, I'm going to throw a big number out there. Let's say 250 people. You contact 250 people. Find them. Don't make excuses. Find them. I'm guaranteeing you 3 to 5 of them are going to buy everything you've ever bought, you've ever found for the rest of your life, for the rest of your investment career. That's a fact. How many of you are currently doing deals right now? How many of you are currently doing deals right now? Or you've ever done a deal? How many have ever done a real estate deal? How many of you are currently doing deals? Leave a comment in the comments. I have done a deal. So is it Tiaja or is it Tisha? I'm going to say Tiaja. If I'm saying it wrong, my apologies. No disrespect. So you've done a deal. How many buyers were you able to sell that deal to? That's a trick question. How many buyers were you able to sell that deal to? Taisha. I got it. How many buyers were you able to sell your deal to? 1. That's the point, guys. Find 3 to 5 of those ones that will always buy from you. It'll change your life. Keep it simple. This business is not hard, man. Don't make it hard. Don't overthink it. If you're a hustler, you know what I'm talking about. I'm from New York City, so I'm a natural born hustler, right? I work, I put in the effort. We make things happen. We don't make excuses, right? Be like that. Get out there and make it happen. She said, shame on me. You are in my school group. I've seen your name before. My bad. So listen, find your buyers first. I just showed you an easy way to do it. Somebody asked, isn't that just another wholesaler? So what? Reach out to them. You never know where the relationship is gonna lead you to. And that's the problem right there. You just question if that's just another wholesaler. While me, I'm saying reach out to the guy. So you see the difference in the mindset, right? You never know where that relationship can lead you. It can lead you to the next deal. He could be a buyer. I'm not asking any questions. I'm making the phone call. You should be that way as well. Does that make sense? Yes, no? Guys, leave a comment in the comment section. Let's get the chats up. Let's get the likes up on YouTube as well. Let's get the likes up on YouTube as well, guys. So, very simple. I just used a free website to find a free buyer who can potentially make me $5,000 to $15,000 or more per deal. Somebody said conversation can turn into compensation. Couldn't have said it better myself, man. Conversation can turn into compensation. I love that, man. I won't steal it though. I'll give you credit. I just don't know your name. Conversation can turn into compensation. Just have a conversation with these people, man, and you're good to go. Listen, I promised somebody I was going to jump into Cincinnati, completely different area. So let's do it. Will this work in Cincinnati as well? Let's find out, right? So I'm going to pull up Cincinnati now. Let me share my screen. Let me go to Craigslist. I'm just using Craigslist. We're keeping it simple today, right? Again, there's Facebook. There's real estate investment groups. There's so many other more advanced ways to do this. We're keeping it free today. Okay. Let's go back out to Craigslist here. And let's go to Ohio. So US states. Let's go to Ohio. This will be the last one we do, and then we'll move on to the next point. All right. So Ohio. Let's go Cincinnati. Now, once we get to Cincinnati, we're looking at real estate for sale. And again, okay, so there's 49 listings in Cincinnati. But look, here's one. We buy houses. Here's a phone number you can call. This guy's an investor. This is probably a wholesaler, but so what? Make the phone call. But I'm going to go up to real estate wanted. And there's 21 people I can contact right here. So we got some phone numbers here, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of phone calling, and we in the bag. Let's make it happen, everybody. So Cincinnati, I don't know this person. There's going to be some duplicates here. Some of these people ain't even going to be in your area. Call everybody. It doesn't matter. Call them all, right? We want to reach everybody. Be aggressive. Here's a guy looking for mobile home parks in Cincinnati. You think you could get a bag with mobile home parks? You're talking, $5-10 million mobile home parks, right? Can you make $500,000 on that instead of 15? I think you can. Let's put the deal together. Contact this guy. See what he's looking for. Find out what he wants. Then find the mobile home parks. Let's make it happen. By the way, I'm not here to sell you guys anything. There's no pressure. I don't care if you buy or not. I'm already making money. But I do want to help you and provide you with some resources. I have a book that I released about a month ago. It's called Laptop House Flips. It's $9. If you check the link in the description box, it says dealproacademy.com/free training. I provide you with a free training. I believe in providing value before I ask for a sale, right? So that free training will allow you to download the joint venture agreement that you're going to use in order to be able to network with other wholesalers. And once you find a deal and you're ready to put something together, sign that agreement. I got a video training along with that agreement. I got some other stuff I'm giving away on that page as well. And then if you want the book, it's an 81-page book that tells you everything you need to know. So feel free to check it out if you want. No pressure. All right. Going back to the presentation. So Cincinnati, does Cincinnati work? Absolutely. And you got a really big opportunity right there. I just helped you find a potential huge opportunity. You got a whale buyer, we call those guys, right? That means they're buying big properties. So that means big profits. You find somebody buying mobile homes, apartment buildings, wholesaling works with all of this stuff. In fact, my wholesaling course in the bonus section, I teach you how to wholesale apartment buildings, right? But you got to be a part of the Deal Pro Academy, Deal Pro community to be able to get that, right? Again, not trying to sell you nothing. So no pressure. By the way, my Deal Pro community is only $49 per month. You get access to all of my mastery courses. You get access to the community. You can ask questions. I'm constantly in the community. If you're in a community, you can vouch for me. I talk to everybody. But yeah, you can feel free to join that. It's $49 a month to get access to everything. Okay. Any new courses I put out, but that's besides the point of this particular training. So let's get back into the content, guys. Let's see where I'm at. So we covered is what wholesaling is. We covered some misconceptions when it comes to wholesaling. We covered, is wholesaling legal? Yes, it is. Again, check your local laws, but for the most part, it's legal. We covered the first 3 exit strategies when it comes to wholesaling, which is assignment of contracts, which is double close, which is joint venturing. But there's another way to wholesale properties, and I call these wholesale deals. So basically what that means is you actually buy the property and then you relist it. You can relist it on the market with a realtor, or you can put the property on the market through a flat fee listing broker. It's like $200 or $500 or whatever it is. Flatfeemls.com. Tell them Jamel Gibbs sent you. Flatfeemls.com. All right. I use them all the time. But you list on a site like that, you will need the money to bring to the table. So how do you come up with the money? You got private lenders, you got hard money lenders who will do it. You might have your own capital. Even though I have my own capital, I'm still not a firm believer in using my own capital, right? I still want to use other people's money, but think outside the box. You got private money. Some of these transaction lenders will do it for you. Okay. But hard money, private money, transaction lending, talk to them. You got a deal. This is going to become the new way of wholesaling real estate as laws change throughout the United States. If you get started now, we're in the infancy stage of doing this. Now, granted, this is something that's been done for years, right? We've been taking down properties, buying them, and putting them right back on the market, right? That's nothing new. But it's becoming more and more frequent as laws change, as states start to crack down. So when I talked about West Virginia, where they're trying to abolish real estate, wholesaling real estate the way that it's practiced, if you buy the property and you resell it, nobody can tell you that you can't sell your own property. If I buy the property and then I put it back on the market, I'm still wholesaling it, right? And I can do that across the board. I can do that anywhere. I don't care if I'm in Europe, I can do that. I can buy something and I can resell it. If I'm in Canada, I can buy, I can resell. If I'm in Australia, I can buy, I can resell. If I'm in anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the world, I can buy something, I can sell something. Some countries don't allow you to do certain things, but I'm not talking about those countries, right? This is going to become the new way as things start to crack down. So if I were you right now, again, we're talking about what's working right now in this market. This is a buyer's market, but laws are changing things as well, right? If I were you, before things become overwhelmingly aggressive, I would start building relationships, start looking for those lenders, start looking for the hard money lenders and the private lenders. And there's going to be programs that's going to come up. I used to have a funding program. I don't necessarily want to be funding deals on that level like that anymore. It's just I'm at a point in my business where I'm 44 years old. I've been doing it since I was 21, and I'm really just enjoying helping people and spending time with my family. That's why I consider myself to be the family-oriented entrepreneur. So I don't need every single dollar. That's not what I'm after, right? I enjoy. I plan on working for the rest of my life. I had the ability to retire when I was 30 years old, right? But I just do this because I enjoy it. I do real estate because it's not work for me, right? Whenever you find something that's actually not work, it sounds cliche. Stick with it though, because it's true. It doesn't feel like work to me, right? So before things get out of hand and states start to really crack down, have those relationships in place now, right? What if 5 years from now you didn't make a move? You're gonna remember this very, what is it, 7 o'clock? The Knicks is about to come on, right? I'm sacrificing the Knick game to be on this live for you guys. Come on. But you're gonna remember this day. I told you that you should have been out there building relationships. Do you feel like you have the ability to build a relationship? Everybody does, man. Again, I was a kid who grew up in the projects with no relationships. I went out there and made it happen. You got to get out there and make it happen. That's why I said you got to take massive action in the beginning. Don't do the minimal. Don't just do enough. Take massive action. If I tell you to contact 250 people, how many people should you really contact? Double, triple, quadruple. This is something that can change your life. If I tell you to make 30 or 40 offers, how many offers do you really want to make? Do you just want one deal? No, I'm thinking 1,500. I'm thinking 2,500 offers, right? Massive action. But start putting yourself in that position. And if you're in my coaching program, obviously I'm going to provide you with the resources and the funding that you need to be able to get things done. If I don't have access to the resources, I will find somebody who does. I know pretty much everybody, right? So that's that. So you got assignment of contracts, you got double close, you got joint ventures, which is the easiest of all of these, by the way. And you got actually buying the deal and reselling the deal. Okay. So those are your exit strategies now when it comes to wholesaling. In certain states, you can still assign the contracts. I would still do that, but start practicing some of these other things to get your feet wet in them as well. Okay. So next, I'm not going to get into the guru thing. I was going to answer the question why some gurus leave out the part about, some of these different strategies. Compliance. That's the key word, compliance. And it's a complex situation. So a lot of gurus focus on hype rather than telling you what's actually working. If you've been following me for any amount of time, that's not the way I do things, right? I like to go into detail on things, and I like to provide you with real value that you can actually use. So let's talk about finding sellers. Finding sellers, right? So there's a couple of different things that you can do when it comes to finding sellers. The reason why people have trouble finding sellers is they chase volume and not motivation. It's probably the best way for me to explain that. Rather than chasing everybody, be more targeted with who you need to focus on in order for you to be able to pull a deal out. So, for example, I can pull a list of, let's say, 10,000 sellers. Out of those 10,000 sellers, only a fraction of those people will actually have some level of motivation. Now, out of those levels of motivation, there's another fraction of those people who will have multiple levels of motivation. The people with the multiple levels of motivation will be more inclined to need a sale on their property. The less motivating factors somebody has will cause them to want to sell. So, for example, if I wake up in the morning, like right now, I'm not a motivated seller. Could things change in my life? Absolutely. We're all prone to anything, right? If I wake up in the morning, somebody contacts me about a property I wasn't thinking about selling, and they say, "Hey, do you want an offer on my property?" I'll say, "Yeah, but I want top dollar. I want to sell if I can get top dollar." But what if I had a situation in my life that's stirring up and I'm starting to lose income, and while losing the income, somebody in my family gets sick, in my household, let's just say, I got to pay a medical bill, things start piling up, different levels of motivation. I can't keep up with the upkeep of the property, so the grass starts to grow. I'm neglecting the physical elements of the property over time. And then I get to a breaking point where I just can't take it anymore. And I'm in a position that I need to sell at that point. So you see the difference in the mindset between somebody who will want to sell. And I just gave you an example. It can be completely different circumstances. Somebody that wants to sell versus somebody that needs to sell. Can you guys see the difference? Leave a comment in the comment section right there. Somebody that wants to sell versus somebody that needs to sell. Can you see the difference in that? I like to teach in parables using illustrations. I think it's easier for you to see things if I explain it this way, right? So you can have one person who wants to sell, one person who needs to sell. You can definitely see a clear difference between the two people. So, what are some of the motivating factors of somebody that would need to sell? You guys might want to write this down. You ready? You got personal distress. So what would be some forms of personal distress? I've taught this in multiple YouTube videos already, but I'm going to teach it here again. All right. Personal distress. So you got divorce, you got death, job loss, you got sickness, you got anything that's personally distressing to you, right? Personal issues. Maybe you're taking care of, more than one person that's not in your household, whatever the case may be. So you got personal distress. Then you got property distress. So that's kind of obvious. The house needs work. You're neglecting it. It's vacant. It's not bringing in any income. You need repairs, code violations, all of that stuff. That's property distress, right? Then you got pressure to sell. So that's the difference between that want and that need, right? You got the pressure. So what can cause pressure to sell a property? You got taxes, foreclosure, maybe your job relocated. So you got the relocation factor in there. So that's pressure to sell the property. And then you got the pileup, right? You got the motivating issue, right? So you got multiple layers of all of these different things. What if you had somebody who was getting they inherited a property through death. that's vacant. So you got personal and property distress right there. Inheritance through death. The property is vacant, it's not bringing in any income, and it needs repairs. That's more property distress. And now the property is piling up in taxes. So that's 3 layers right there. You got personal, property, and pressure. Do you think that that person is going to be more motivated to sell than somebody who just got a divorce or just lost a job and it just happened? Right now, granted, job loss can lead to all of these things, but it takes time, right? Do you think that person is going to be more motivated than somebody who just has a vacant property? What if they're just an absentee owner and they just evicted a tenant? The property is vacant. Can they get another tenant relatively quickly? Yes. People need places to live these days, right? But what if they had multiple layers of this bucket? Do you think they're going to be more motivated to sell? Do you think that if I pull a list of 10,000 people, there's going to be a fraction of those people who will have multiple layers of distress? So this is what I call micro listing, right? There's other names out there for it. I call it micro list. I'm focused on the most targeted person I can go after, and I'm going to build a relationship with that person. So you put yourself in front of the motivating factors, preferably multiple motivating factors, and you will find deals. That is a fact. I'm telling you. You touch base with these people between 4 and 8 times. It can be a letter, it can be a phone call, it can be a text message, another letter, it can be another phone call, it can be another text message, it can be an email. That's 7 right there. 7. You can do all of that. The more motivated somebody is, the more factors they have, the shorter the time span that you want to keep in mind when it comes to contacting them, right? Because they're motivated right now. So if I contact them, let's say I send them somebody a postcard or a letter, or I send them, I pick up the phone and call them, and I know that they're hitting all of these different points, I'm probably going to reach out to them more frequent than not. If they're not motivated, say, for example, an absentee owner list, a lot of investors go crazy about the absentee owner list. I was doing that, 12, 13, 14 years ago. I had a whole course wrapped around, it's called the Property Umbrella Blueprint, wrapped around motivated sellers. And it was really focused on absentee owners because that was hot back then. Talking about 13, 14 years ago, right? But those types of sellers you hit over a period of 6 months. There's really no motivating factor for them to want to sell unless they have multiple layers of distress, right? Versus, let's say, for example, I have an absentee owner. I wake up in the morning, I decide I want to call up some sellers today. I'm calling an absentee owner list, and then I have a vacant property list. Which one do you think is going to be more motivated to sell? Somebody who has, and this is by way of conversation with you guys. Do you think a vacant property owner, who's going to be more motivated? An absentee owner or a vacant property owner? There's a difference between the two. Absentee simply means I don't live in a house. That doesn't mean I'm not making money on that property. Vacant means the property is vacant. There's nobody, there's no tenants, there's no money in the property, nobody's living there. I'm losing money. Which one is a little more motivated than the other? Faith over fear, vacant. I love that name, by the way, faith over fear, right? So you got a vacant property owner is going to be more motivated. So which list should you pull first? Should you pull the absentee owners? They're both right. The message that you reach out to them with and the time frame that you have in mind is going to change. You understand? Absentee owners, I have the long game in mind. I'm reaching out to them, building a relationship over time. Vacants, I'm going to hit them a little harder. Now, vacant with other aspects of motivating factors piled on top of that are more frequent than not. Got it? So I can teach you the nuances and, pull this list and pull that list, I think it's better to tell you, paint the picture for you in your head so you can see for yourself. This is the type of person. So now when you do go pull that list, you got the game in mind now, right? They say teach a man to fish and he'll eat forever, right? I can bring you the fish. I can go pull a list for you right now. That's not helping you. But if you understand the dynamics behind why we're pulling the list, you're going to eat forever. Make sense, guys? How many people got something out of that segment right there? How many people understand the psychology behind why we pull certain lists? So whether it's a code violation list, whether it's a vacant property list, whatever it is, all of the lists that you hear all the gurus talk about, right? Pull this list and pull that list, pull the tax foreclosures, and people bouncing all over the place, not really focused on one thing. None of it really matters. It's all the same thing at the end of the day, right? That's just like wholesaling. I purposely put this poll out, and I get, because you guys are, this is not an insult, but many of you guys are brand new to the business. So you're really green to this. I'm not only a wholesaler though, guys. You notice on my YouTube channel, some channels focus only on wholesaling, right? I focus on everything because I don't put my back up against the wall. I have an exit strategy for any type of conversation I'm going to have on the phone with a seller. So I'm a transactor. I am not a wholesaler. I flip houses, fix and flip. I wholesale. I do creative finance. I buy commercial real estate. I build houses. I buy land right now. Right? So when you look at the market and you look at all of these different things, guess what, guys? One market condition, one little shift in the market is not going to really affect me because I have many different exit strategies. I'm not providing a real service to the seller. I'm doing a seller a disservice if I don't have multiple ways to buy their property to get them the most money and me be able to get the best deal. Does that make sense? So I don't back myself up against the wall. And that's what I teach. If you're a coaching student of mine, you could vouch for me on this. I don't teach you how to do one thing. I teach you how to do everything. Lead funneling is all the same, right? How we find properties can slightly change, but is mostly all the same. The exit strategy is what changes. One seller might need a little bit more for the house. That's going to change up the exit. I can't wholesale this house. I might have to fix and flip. Or if the house don't really need that much work, I might have to go a different route. So I'm going to offer it in a different way. I was just talking to one of my clients earlier today. I gave 4 different ways. I did it with 2 different clients today. 4 different ways that they can purchase a house and how they should present it. One of them is wholesaling. One of them is taking it down, fix and flip, creative finance, and then novations, right? But you got to have these different things in your tool belt in order for you to be able to get more deals than the next guy, because everybody's a wholesaler, right? So if you have more tools in your arsenal, more guns in a holster, who's going to make more money? Who could fire more shots? I'm here to win. This is what you're up against. You can't just be one thing these days. You got to be everything, right? So you might focus on one thing. Again, wholesaling is the hot topic, right? Wholesaling is the hype job, right? But really, by you doing a little bit of everything, this is where you really could take your business to a whole different level. All right? So keep that in mind, guys. Next topic I want to talk about. So finding the deals. We talked about the 4 buckets of a motivated seller. When you're talking to the motivated sellers, just find the pain points. Keep the conversation simple. Be yourself. Find out why they want to sell. Don't ask them why they want. My mistake. Find out why they need to sell. So why do you need to sell this house right now? I had one of my clients. Let me give you an example. I was talking to one of my clients earlier today. We're making an offer on a property. So this particular client, I had another client who went to go see a house. We're probably going to get that contract today. But the first client that I was talking to the seller, it sounds like this seller is in Chicago, by the way. It sounds like the seller wants closer to market value after talking with his kids, right? So his kids they don't even own the house, but I get because he's an older gentleman, not that old, but he's older. And his kids are, they want to make sure that they're looking out for their dad. Perfectly fine, right? I told him he needs to get on the phone with all of them and ease their minds, right? And let them know, here's how you approach this situation. Look, if a house is worth, let's say the house is worth $300,000. We're going to use the same example from before. Here's how I would approach it, and this is how I explain it to him. Mr. Seller, I'm the first guy to tell you, go after everything you want in this house. Now, am I the guy to pay exactly what the house is worth? Probably not. If you're looking for top dollar, you should probably go talk to a realtor. If you need a recommendation, I can look around for some realtors. I can be helpful in that way. But I'm not the guy to pay top dollar, right? As an investor, I'm sure you'd understand, I'm in this to make a profit. So what did I just do there? I'm willing to be helpful even if you don't sell me the house. This is all psychological. And in addition to that, I'm telling you up front, I'm going to make money on this house. Most wholesalers, especially newer ones, they're afraid to let the seller know how much money they're going to make. Tell them, who cares? You don't have to say, I'm going to make $50,000 on this house. No, right? But let them know, I'm in this to make a profit. I don't want a nonprofit organization, right? So, Mr. Seller, I'm the first person. What am I doing? I'm leveling with the seller. I'm the first person that wants you to make as much as you can on this house. Now, if you want to sell for exactly what the house is worth, and you're willing to sit on the market for a little while, maybe pay a realtor commission. Right now, we are in a buyer's market in most of the country. So if you're okay with letting it sit on the market for a little bit, most houses are sitting for a couple of months at this point, and you don't mind sitting on it, then I would say go ahead and list it with your realtor, see what they can get you. But if you're looking for a fast solution, if you need to sell right now, if you want to sell, you could go with the realtor. But if you need to sell right now, you need a quick solution, I'm your guy. There's a couple of different ways I can buy your house, right? I can offer you the quick cash. The quicker to sell, the less I can pay, because I got to be able to get the money up. It's expensive to get this money up, right? The quicker to sell, the less I can pay. If the house needs a little more work, and I feel like I can pay a little bit more for it, I can probably make that happen. It might take me a few weeks to be able to make that happen. If you want closer to the value, but not quite the value, there's another way I can buy it. We can partner up and maybe split the equity, split a portion of the equity or something like that. But either way, I have options for you. So what did I just explain to the seller? I can wholesale this without saying I can wholesale it. I can fix and flip this. I can do what's called a novation. You don't want to use the word novation because they don't understand the word, right? But all a novation is me partnering with the seller and making a profit. It allows me to put the house on the MLS, flat fee listing broker, and sell the house. That's what a novation allows me to do. That's it. I'm a partner. That's it. Right. And I'm going to give the seller exactly what they want, and I'm going to sell it and keep the difference. It's probably the easiest way to explain that. Don't let anybody fool you. Okay. But notice I just provided multiple ways for me to be able to buy your house. Each step, I can go a little higher in price, but you got to come off of you got to be willing to work with me a little bit on the terms. Right. Now, if I was to go to creative finance route, I could probably pay a little bit more. Hey, I can even rent the house from you, Mr. Seller, through what's called a lease. as long as you give me the option to buy it at today's price. But it's going to take me about a good 36 to 60 months to be able to close it out. I want to make sure I build enough equity in it to be able to cash you out. So we have options. So if I would have came to the seller and said, look, I can only, this house is worth 300,000. I can only pay you, 60 grand for it. I'm getting the phone slammed on me. Right. But if I have options, chances are I can walk away with a contract. Do you guys agree with that? You guys agree with that? Leave a comment in the comment section. What do you guys think about that? Excellent. I'm glad everybody's understanding where I'm going with it. Now, again, I can teach you the mundane things of the business. I do it all the time in almost every video. I want to teach you the mindset behind why we do things. If you understand the mindset, you go in a lot stronger. You don't have to ask questions at that point. This is what I'm looking for. This is who I need to talk to. Here's how I got to talk to them. Let's make this happen. Let's get out there and get to the bag, right? So I'm teaching you how to fish right now. Let's move on, guys. So we covered building a pain point first with the seller. And all you're doing is you ask the right questions to qualify the leads early, right? So you might show empathy first as you're talking to a seller. They don't know who you are. Show empathy, build rapport. You don't want to close hard. Everybody wants to get the contract on the first day. No, right? I'm a huge advocate of I might make an offer over the phone, but I may not want to sign a contract right away, right? I want the seller to feel comfortable. That's why we close just about every deal we put on the contract, right? Because there's trust there. I avoid asking for the price right up front. I build up to it. How much do you need for this property? Now, how much do you want? Or not how much are you asking? By you asking how much are you asking, you're putting the seller in a power position, right? By you saying how much do you want for the house, I can tell you $1 million. By you changing the language with one word, it changes the dynamic of the conversation and way the seller thinks. How much do you need right now in order to walk away? How much do you need right now in order to walk away? And if you're talking to the right seller, remember we talked about those motivating factors in that bucket, guess what happens? If you're talking to the right seller, that question becomes that much more powerful, right? So why are you considering selling now? Why do you need to sell right now? That's basically asking, why do you want to sell? What's making you need to sell right now, Mr. Seller? Need. Always use the word need. Super important. If they need something, that's more of a motivating factor than if they want something. Okay. The next thing, understanding market cycles and timing. So this year, I've spoken about this before. This is a buyer's market. So in a buyer's market, we are calling the shots, right? So I'll give you an example. I had a friend who made an offer on a property a few months ago. The seller realized, he said, no, I'm not taking it. I'm never taking that, right? And seller came back to him and said, hey, this is like probably 4 or 5 months later, came back to him and said, hey, I'm still interested in selling if you're interested in buying at that price. You know what my friend said? Nope. Yesterday's price is not the same as today's price. Yesterday's price is not the same. So he said, really? How much can you take? He said, I'm willing to go down another 5,000, right? This is the seller. He's like, nope. My friend dropped it another $50,000. The seller said, nope, can't do it. But then he said, but you know what? Let me talk to my wife. So what does that tell you? Never be a motivated buyer. Never be a motivated buyer. A motivated buyer, and most people who start off in this business, they are motivated buyers at the end of the day because they're desperate to get a deal. They don't put in enough work to talk to enough sellers, to make enough offers, to stick to their offer in order to be able to get the best deal. They just want a bag. And I get it because some people are broke. Some people want money right now, but you can't put yourself in a position where you're not going to make anything, right? Had he paid $50,000 more, remember, we're in a buyer's market. In the seller's market, he would have been able to buy that house and still make a profit. We're in a buyer's market now. He had to drop the price. The seller said no right away, thought about it for 5 minutes, contacted him back and said, let me talk to my wife about it. Why? Because my friend is not a motivated buyer. Not a motivated buyer. Same with me. Same with everybody else in my circle. We're not motivated buyers. We're trying to create the best opportunity for both us and the seller, but we're not in the business to lose shirts. We're in this business to make money. So had the seller taken that deal 6 months ago, he would have made more money. Because he waited, which is, you can use this as a scarcity play if you want when you're talking with the sellers. And I'll give you some examples of that as I was explaining to my client earlier today. Had the seller not waited, he would have made more money. Because he waited, it cost him money. So when somebody comes to you and they say, hey, I'm interested, call me back in 6 months. My immediate reply to something like that is, that's fine. I can call you back in 6 months. But just understand the price might change as we go deeper into a buying market. So where I might be able to pay more today, I may not be able to pay that much in 6 months. That gives them something to think about. So when you contact them, here's my price today, but in 6 months, guess what? The price changes. Yesterday's price is not the same as today's price. You got that? Same thing if a seller says, hey, call me back on Tuesday. Okay, great. I'll call you back on Tuesday, Mr. Seller, but I'm only buying a few houses this month. And because I'm only buying a few houses this month, it's really on a first come, first serve basis. So I can't guarantee I'm going to be able to make the same offer on Tuesday that I can make today. I have you on the phone right now. If you're serious, we can talk a little bit more. If not, I'll be happy to call you back on Tuesday. I can't guarantee I'm going to be able to make you the same offer I can make you today. You see that? That's all you're doing is you're putting it in the seller's mind that you're not making them any guarantees. Right? This is all psychology, folks. So these are different things that you can do while you're on the phone with the seller in order to keep the conversation going, but really find out what's motivating them to sell, and then putting yourself in a power position to be able to get the best deal. And understand too, and this is something I really want everybody to understand. When you understand these psychology key points, you are not taking advantage of people. You do not want to take advantage of people. You want to make sure you're making the best offer you can possibly make. You want the seller to be satisfied with the deal. If you win the entire deal, you lost the deal. Even if you made money on the deal, you still lost. Right? This is a game, right? You really need to make sure that the seller is happy. Make sure you're happy. I make more money on happy sellers through referrals than I do on anything else, because I treat people the way I would expect my family to be treated. I treat people the way I want to be treated. So you're not taking advantage of people. If you say you're going to give them the best deal that you can give them the best deal that you can give. And be honest with them. Look out for them. If you're in negotiation and the difference is a $5,000 difference, but you know they really need the money, give them the $5,000 if it's in your budget. You understand what I mean? That's the epitome of looking out for people rather than looking out for profits. People over profits, period. People over profits. Okay? Treat people the way you want to be treated. Treat people the way you want them to treat your family. Okay? If something happened to you today and your family needed money, how would you want somebody to treat your family? your grandparent, your mother, your father, whatever. Treat people the way you want them to treat you and your family. Okay. All right, guys. So moving forward, let me see where am I? Okay. Let's talk about making offers. So I'm going to just provide you with a simple formula. I know for the sake of time, we've been on this thing for an hour and a half. For the sake of time, I just want to provide you guys with a formula that works. Write this down. You know, this is a common formula in the industry. Nothing fancy about it. There's no trick way of making an offer. Does the offer change based on how you approach the deal? It can. But let's keep things simple. After repaired value, so that 300,000 we talked about, multiply that by 70%, subtract the repairs that you think the house needs. That equals your offer minus your wholesale fee. Okay, so if you want to make $5,000 to $15,000 on a deal, subtract that off of the bottom line. So on 300,000 on a house that needs $50,000 in work, let's do the math. $300,000 times 0.7 is $240,000. If it needs $50,000 in work, that's 190. 190. Let's say I want to make $15,000 on a deal. 190 minus 15,000 is what? 175. That's my offer. That's my offer. 175 on a $300,000 house. Well, actually, my numbers are wrong because I said 240. It's actually 210. 7 times 3 is 21. So 210 minus 50,000 is 160. I can pay 145 for that property. 145. That's just off the top of my head, right? Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Make 30 to 40 offers using that very formula. ARV, meaning, so if you're brand new, let me explain this to you. It's called after repaired value. After repaired value. All that means, remember in the beginning, we were talking about if houses were selling for $300,000 completely fixed up, but then the one house wasn't fixed up and needed work, can I pay the same amount? No, right? We're talking about the houses that are completely fixed up. That's what the after repaired value of a house would be. If I put the money into the house, what are other houses like it selling for right now within the last few months? Like and kind properties, right? So take the after repair value, multiply it by 70%, subtract the repairs, subtract your wholesale fee, and that's how much you can contract that property for. Does that make sense? Yes. Right? Now, your exit strategy is simple. We're getting into the exit strategy part. Exit strategy is simple. Remember those buyers that you found in the very beginning where you were going to joint venture with other wholesalers? Well, guess what? You're still going to have those buyers on your buyers list. Now, if you find these properties and they match what your buyer is looking for, in fact, the easy way to do it, let me share a simple way for you to find out what people would actually buy. We're going to go to affordablehousing.com. And I'm going to share my screen with you. Share screen. Right? Affordablehousing.com. So here's how you take the guesswork out of everything. You don't even need to know what houses are actually selling for if you really didn't want to, right? You don't really need to know if you don't, if you got the right buyers lined up, right? So if I'm at affordablehousing.com and let's just say I'm looking at properties in Cincinnati, because that's one of the markets we just looked up, right? So Cincinnati, Ohio, right? In Cincinnati, Ohio, all I did was type in the Cincinnati, Ohio. You can see there's 333 rental properties in this market. Now, are a portion of these property management? Yes, but we can kind of sort through these to see who's listing these properties. We come across a name that gives us a heightened opportunity to be able to get in contact with somebody who's potentially a buyer or a seller, right? If I was looking for buyers, I can use this as well, right? So let's go property type. Let's just say single family properties, 30 rentals. So I just narrowed it down to 30. Single family, this looks like an apartment building, right? So this looks like a house, right? So here's somebody who owns a house. They're renting this house. They have pictures, right? A guy is listed by Blue Vista Realty. So I'm not even going to look into this because I want to show you guys an actual situation that might work. So here's another one, right? This one is listed by property management. This one here is probably listed by a seller, right? You got a bad picture. The guy said move-in ready, single family house. Let's click on it, see what it's talking about, right? So North Star Management. It's not what we're looking for. So let's go out and let's look for, again, we're searching for the one where the seller is actually listed on the property, Blue Vista Realty again, right? So like I said, you're gonna have some of these properties will be listed by the same person, some won't, and those are the ones that you want to find. So let me just look at this one, see who this is listed by. Terrence Kelly. So we found one, right? So you have Terrence Kelly. You got his phone number. You got a way to contact him through email. You got the property address, which is 1824 Esmond Street. Now, guess what? If I take 1824 Esmond Street and I can go to my software, Investor Deal Pro, right? Let me share my Investor Deal Pro screen with you real quick. So let me stop this right here. Stop screen. Let me share my screen with you. You see how easy this is, though? I'm making this up on the spot. This is not hard. You just got to know what to look out for, right? I'm just typing in 1824 Esmond Street and this is my software, by the way, Investor Deal Pro, guys. You can go to investordealpro.com to check that out if you want. But now I got some information on this is an LLC that owns it, but we got Terrence Kelly's contact information, right? This is probably his LLC. I could find that out as well, by the way. If I scroll down, I can see how long they've actually owned this place. They got it through a quick claim deed just a couple months ago. Look at this, right? They got it for nothing. Quick claim deed. And guess what? Terrence Kelly was the seller. The buyer was Debbie, and she probably got to this house already. But we could find out who Debbie Ann is just by doing some research. Terrence Kelly bought it for $6,000 in 2014. He probably lost it or he partnered with Debbie Allen. And now he's obviously still on it. So he probably owns this LLC. He probably transferred from his name to the LLC right here. This can be a family member that he just named the property after, and he transferred it for $0. That's what this actually looks like, but I can be wrong. I can find out, though, if I copy Debbie and Allen and I go over to Open Corporates, give you guys all the secrets today. Opencorporates.com, right? And let me share that screen now. Right, so I'm going to stop sharing there and I'm going to go to present and I'm going to go to Open Corporates right here. And I'm just going to type in Debbie Ann's 5 LLC. And I know this guy's in Ohio. So let me just search in Ohio. I'm just going to click on search Debbie Ann's 5 LLC. Now, if I click on that, I might be able to get the access to the agent name, who happens to be Terrence Kelly, my friends. And I got access to the articles of organization. And I got access to the property address. So he has an LLC. He hid his name behind that LLC, smart man, but he left a paper trail. And now I know who he is. That's not a bad thing. All this tells me is he's a potential buyer, but he may end up, it seems like he inherited this property, right? So if I go back to Invest the Deal Pro and I present and share my screen, let me just share the screen with you again. Are there other properties along the street that Terrence Kelly, if he was a real buyer, I'm just using him as an example, but if he's a buyer, would he be interested in purchasing any of these properties? He's obviously renting now. So is he open to purchasing more real estate? So this house, if I go to comparable sales right here, right, and I just look at the details on his property, it's a 3-1. It says it's sold, but we know that it's sold. He sold it to himself. He just transferred the deed, right? 3-1. It's how many square feet? 1900. It was built in 1900. The building is 1637 square feet, right? So the lot size is 3036. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 1161 square feet. So and then it's within a certain zip code. It's within South Fairmount, St. Peter's, Lick Run, historic. I know nothing about Cincinnati, right? But the whole point is this. So you got this information. Can I find other houses in Southmount, St. Peter's, Lick Run, historic district, North Fairmount, or Mount Harrison, or the surrounding areas that is right around 1161 square feet, a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, and worth about the same as this property, and then contact him to see if he wants to buy? That's what you're doing here. You're reverse engineering the whole process. So if I know what you want, I can go out and find what you want and then give it to you. So when it comes to the sale part of things, hope I'm not losing you guys. When it comes to the sale, look, somebody, you can't make this up. King Be Great just secured a buyer off of Craigslist just now, right in the middle of the training. That's called taking massive action. We have, now granted, King Be Great is one of my coaching clients, right? But you can't make this up. I didn't tell, well, I did kind of tell all of you guys to do it. He just went and did it, right? He just went and did it, right? So just secured a buyer off Craigslist. You guys can read it in the comments. Just secured a buyer off Craigslist just now. Come on. This stuff works. You just got to be willing to do it and stop thinking about it. Stop guessing. Don't doubt yourself, right? Just do it. So getting back to this. So can I contact him now that so when you secured the buyer, King Be Great, you found out what he wanted. Now, all you have to do is go out and find what he wants. Does he own other properties? Can he tell you what area he's buying in? Can he tell you the name of his LLC? You can go out and search the LLC's records and see where they own properties, and then start marketing in those areas, right on the same streets where those properties are. You know that buyer is buying in those areas. Why not go to those areas direct and look for the motivated sellers directly in those zip codes? Reverse engineering the whole process. So that's how easy it is to go out and find buyers. I'm going to get to the questions in just a second. There's one more thing I want to cover, guys. As a matter of fact, you know what? I was going to get into some other stuff, but I really think that by me answering the questions, these last few steps will be covered. So why don't we get into some of the questions, because I saw some of the questions that I was about to cover just now. So I think it will be easier for us to just answer your questions. So if you have questions, feel free to use the chat box on the side. And let's get to some of your questions. This is done in real time. Somebody on this call just secured a buyer, and look, he just did exactly what I told him to do. Can you do the same thing? Can you take action? Can you get out there and make things happen? To keep it simple, the stuff that I was just about to cover gets into the weeds a little bit with some of the legality stuff, some of the outside nuances, right? I told you on this call, on this training, everything that you needed to know, right? The mindset that you need to have, how to get out there and find the buyers. I just told you how to find the sellers, what type of mindset you want to have when you're talking to these sellers, what to say to them, how to make the offers. I told you how many offers to make. You have literally everything you need right now to get out there and get a deal. I want to answer your questions now. Let's take some time to answer your questions. Okay. Jackie, I want to learn how to be the end buyer. Jackie is the end buyer, by the way. So that's a conversation we can have offline, Jackie, because that's outside of the scope of what we're talking about here. And by the way, Jackie is one of my clients as well, but she has cash. I probably shouldn't be talking about that. She has the money to be able to do this. Okay. So I'm going to leave that question outside because it's outside of the scope of what we're talking about. Daniel Nolte says, I have lines of credit. Should I just get into flipping houses? That is a great question. A lot of people think that you should wholesale, and this is because of what they're told. You should wholesale before anything, right? Now, is wholesaling a great way to get started, to build capital, to learn the business by minimizing your mistakes? First off, I've been in this business for over 20 years. I still make mistakes, right? But Daniel Nolte is in a situation where he has access to lines of credit that he can use in order to make bigger money faster. Flipping houses, in my opinion, and I do both. Wholesaling is a great check, but it's a hustle. Flipping houses, I could do a handful of them a year and make way more money and do way less deals, right? So you got to look at your circumstances. You got to look at your lifestyle. Where should you start? I got a free report. Matter of fact, after this training, I'll link it in the description box of this particular live. You guys can download it. It's a seven real estate strategies guide that you can use in order to be able to dictate where you should start your real estate investing business. That would be a great guide. It's a one-page guide, and it tells you, look, how much time do you have, how much capital you have, etc. And it tells you, okay, you should do this, right? So I'll be sure to download that after the fact. But Daniel Nolte, if you're in a position, let's say you don't have a lot of time, right? So you got, let's say, a 9-to-5 job. You got lines of credit. You don't have time to get out there and actually find deals. Flipping houses might be the best thing for you, or buying rental properties, short-term rentals, things like that, right? Because that works hand in hand with each other, right? So I would really consider that. Now, you're in West Virginia as well. It's not illegal to wholesale houses yet. Again, it's just a bill. You can still wholesale real estate in West Virginia, but they are changing things rapidly. If it becomes law, then it will affect your area. You might have to change up your investment strategy anyway. So build your business wrapped around the future, what's actually going to work, and provided your circumstances. If you need some coaching, go to dealprocoaching.com. We can talk about what we can help you out with. Again, I'm not here to sell you anything, but the coaching is not free. Okay. I don't work with everybody, but I'm happy to have a conversation in order to see if you're a fit for the coaching program. Okay. But if it were me, if I were you, I would be looking into flipping, fix and flip, buy and hold. That would be my market right now to really build up. Okay. Let's see. Other questions. So let's see. What else do we have, guys? Carlton Sheets, Carl Higgs. You know, Carlton Sheets died a couple years ago. I think it was during COVID or a little after the pandemic. He passed away. I think he was like 78 years old. Shout out to him, though. A lot of people hated on that man, but he gave some game back in the days. I guess, ironically, a lot of the real estate gurus hated on him. Go figure. King Be Great. I will definitely get you that joint venture agreement. Matter of fact, call me maybe tomorrow, shoot me a text or whatever, and I'll get that over to you. Okay. So we got some questions. Do you have any deals you need help with? Put that in the, I got some time, man. Let's see. I'm getting down to there's so many comments. I'm just getting down to the questions here. In the meantime, how many of you have actually gotten value out of what we talked about today? How many of you have actually gotten value? Just type yes in the chat box if you've gotten value, if you enjoyed the time spent with me today. So Dean McWilliams says, with the pile up, if the repair cost is heavy, would an investor purchase? Yes, there's different levels of an investor. I'm a heavy rehab investor, right? Sometimes we got to knock houses down. I just completed a heavy rehab. It was $130,000 repairs. We got to do everything in the house. As long as the numbers make sense, and as long as you make your offer properly, sometimes you got to go back and renegotiate the contract with the seller based on what your buyer offers, right? In order for you to make a profit. But yes, investors will buy. The numbers just have to make sense. If they don't make sense, then you paid too much for the house. Everything sells if the price is right. Everything sells if the price is right. So that means your numbers have to be tight. Okay. Would the buyer inherit the violations? No. Typically, if a seller, let's say, unless you agree to this, which I never agreed to take over, any violations, but if a seller has violations on a property, it's going to come out of their profit, or you will pay them during a closing if the deal allows for you to be able to pay them. So you typically want to buy a property with a clean title. Okay. So that's how those violations will be taken care of. Dean McWilliams. Can you explain? So this is Taisha. Can you explain why vacant? I think we kind of went into that in full detail. But just to recap, vacant properties means no income, which heightens the seller's motivation. Vacant properties with other layers of motivation becomes a hyper motivated seller. Go after them. Why not? Hope that answers your question. So Artix says, hey, so I have a verbal agreement with a seller, but I don't have the funds for the option fee. So I looked for buyers. They want the address, etc., but I don't want them to go around me. What should I do? You should get a contract on the property and not be trying to market the property without a full-blown contract. Okay. I made that mistake before. You can get in a legal situation with that as well. But I made that mistake before when I was younger and lost the deal because of it. One time, it was an expensive $20,000 potential deal. But that was like I said earlier, you got $20,000 lessons, $20,000 seminars, right? Where you make the mistakes, you learn. I'm not talking about guru seminars. I'm talking about street seminars, right? You should go out there and get the contract, control the deal, and then worry about your selling it. All right. Giving out the address comfortably. Go out there and get the deal. Don't be scared. This is what we do. Let's see. I hope that answers your question, Artix. Chopping your name up today, brother. Abdul, how can you join the mentorship? Deal Pro Academy. Oh, I'm sorry, dealprocoaching.com. Fill out an application. It is an application process. I do have one-on-one. I take a limited amount of people with one-on-one. I'm not, I don't work with everybody one-on-one, but we also have a group coaching as well, where we have calls every single week. So if that's something that you're interested in, one-on-one or group, one-on-one is directly with me. The group is with me and other coaches as well. Dealprocoaching.com. Okay, so what else we got? How do you get the ARV when there is no rehab in the area? You base it off of what recently sold. It doesn't have to. So I was just discussing this. That's a great question, Shirley Rice, by the way. I was just discussing this with a client, one of those same clients earlier today, because he was pulling like as is values. And I'm like, look, I don't focus on as is value, right? I pull what recently sold in the area and within a certain period of time, right? What recently sold in the area, which is like in kind to my property within, let's say, the last 3 months. I want to see what sold. Now, you're going to have some groups. Let's say a house, using $300,000 as an example. Let's say a house sold for $400,000, one house. That's probably going to be an anomaly. So I'm going to get rid of that. Let's say one house sold for $60,000 in the same area. That's an anomaly, right? They probably sold that to family or something. There's going to be a middle ground. Say you got a group of houses that sold for 200, some for 150. Chances are the 150s were bought by investors, like wholesalers, and then the others were not bought by wholesalers, but they were bought by investors because they needed a lot of work. The 210s is probably bought by some landlords, but somewhere in that pocket is where you want to be. I want to be between 150 and 200, 210, something like that. So I'm looking at future value, after repaired value, multiplied by 70%. I didn't, you didn't hear me say, as is value, right? You heard me say after repaired value, right? And after repaired value doesn't necessarily mean, getting back to your point, after repaired value doesn't necessarily mean they rehab the house. It just means the house is in great shape, right? So if I put the money into the house, that's what after repaired value means. If I fix this property up, can it be worth the same amount as that house that's in great shape? Multiplied by 70% minus the repairs, et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense? Faith Over Fear says Invest the Deal Pro best software. I appreciate that. Thank you. Can I buy a house that's on pre-foreclosure with no money down? Yes, you can. It just depends on how you go about doing it. Pre-foreclosure means the seller still owns the house. So you can save them from foreclosure. There's something called creative finance, right? So you can do subject to long-term lease options. You don't have to put any money down with the seller. Matter of fact, you give them $10 just to secure the contract. And you can go out and sell it on a rent to own. I have a video. It's got 3 million views on YouTube. Thanks to all you guys. It's called How to Buy Your First Rental Property Even If You're Broke. Right. And that is explaining seller financing in its entirety when it comes to selling the property through a rent to own. It's not a traditional way of buying rental properties, and it's not a traditional rental property. It's just a way to be a middleman and essentially wholesale a property through lease options and seller financing as a combo attack. Okay. So can you do it? You absolutely can. It does take a little bit of know-how. If you want to dive into that, again, my Deal Pro Academy right now is only $49 per month. I have a creative finance course in there. It goes into all of that in full detail. That's one of the courses that comes with it. By the way, Deal Pro Academy has wholesaling, entire wholesaling training, entire fix and flip training, entire cash flow rental property training, entire creative finance training, an entire auction property training, and I'm constantly putting other trainings in there as well. Okay. Um, 49 bucks a month. I mean, honestly, people pay thousands of dollars for that information. So take that with a, take it how you want to take it. So other questions, how do I find wholesalers who are willing to JV? I just showed you a couple of different ways. Go to Facebook groups, call We Buy Houses signs. Um, you know, Craigslist, you know. There's a lot of different ways, man. Some of it is not coming to mind right now, but anyway, where you can surround yourself with investors, local real estate groups, things like that. Start your own group. This is how you put yourself in front of people who are actually in the business. Right here in the chat section, join my school group, which is the Deal Pro Academy. Network in there, right? Talk to other people in there, see what they're doing. I got a Facebook group with a couple of thousand people in it. They post deals every single day, right? So this is how you put yourself in front of other people to be able to joint venture with them. Join every group in your area, right? If the seller has code violations, can the property potentially be inherited to the buyer? Dean McWilliams, can you rephrase that question? If the seller has code violations, can that property potentially be inherited to the buyer? Are you saying if a property has code violations, can that property be purchased by the buyer? I'm not understanding that question. I'm sorry. Basically, if a seller has code violations, can they sell a property? Yes. The sale of the property will cover the code violations, and the buyer has to make the repairs. I hope that simplifies what. I'm not sure if that's what you were asking, but yes. What source for repair cost estimates? So I didn't go into a lot of detail on that, but I use the square footage approach. I've rehabbed over 1,000 houses in 20 something years, right? So I know what stuff costs. And I'm still an active rehabber. So I kind of know what stuff costs, but I use the square footage approach just to make an offer, right? So I do have a video on that. If you go into, matter of fact, I just released one not so long ago. I believe it was sometime this year, maybe late last year. Go through my video, my all my videos on YouTube. Let me see if I can pull it up for you. By the way, my channel just is about to hit 174,000. I'm 100 subscribers away from that. I really appreciate you guys. Share this video, like the video, all of that stuff. In order to get that, I'm about to hit 174,000. I remember, years ago when I first started YouTube, a lot of people don't know, but my channel was one of the first real estate channels on YouTube. I didn't take it serious until like 2019. I was putting out maybe 1 or 2 videos a year for like 12 years. And then in 2019, I said, hey, I want to take this a little more serious. And I started putting out more content. When I first started putting out more content, I had 64 videos on YouTube. And that was since 2008 up until 2019. Since then, I've put out over 800 pieces of content within the last 5 or 6 years it's been. In fact, this year is going to make 6 years. And I'm having a lot of fun doing it. 174,000 people. We're 100 people away. We should probably hit that by tomorrow. But I just want to thank all of you guys, and I hope you're still getting value out of my channel. On the channel here, let me just go to my YouTube channel real quick. Let me share my screen. right, Jamel Gibbs, YouTube. There we go. All right, so there's that guy right there. If I go down to where it says videos, let me see how to do this. There's a way to sort this somehow. If I just type estimating repairs, maybe, let me see. There we go. Estimating repairs on the search bar right here. This is the video. Watch this entire video. I'll tell you exactly how to do it. All right. Watch this video right here. I'll tell you exactly how to do it. That's simple. All right. So I hope that helps you out. All right. So what other questions? How much is Investor Deal Pro? It's $97 a month. Do you have a script for cold calling? I do. It comes with the courses. Again, Deal Pro Academy is only $49 a month. It's worth the investment. How can buy notes from foreclosure, then reach back out to a homeowner? How can I buy a note from foreclosure and reach back out to a homeowner and create own terms? So you buy the note at the foreclosure, and then you simply find out who foreclosed on the property. You go back to them, get their contact information, do a site like fastpeoplesearch.com, call them and say, hey, do you want to buy the house back? I can sell it to you through monthly payments. But be cautious with that because they foreclose on the house for a reason. They probably can't afford it. So you might want to sell it to somebody else. But I get where your heart is at with that. But just be cautious with it. Qualify the seller, qualify the buyer before you actually put them in the property, because then they're going to end up not paying you. Okay. What's a good strategy to cold call? Pull a list of motivated sellers. Basically, what we were talking about today. Multiple layers of motivation is better. Skip trace the list. Investor Deal Pro does that. So you can pull a list on Investor Deal Pro. You can skip trace the list on Investor Deal Pro. And then pick up the phone and start calling people. You might run into some blockers. So I like to use dialers. A lot of the dialers might be blacklisted in some way. So you got to find a good dialer. Mojo is pretty good. I've heard Batch, but I'm not, I don't use that software, so I don't know. So I'm not here to promote that software at all. I don't make any money by telling you about Mojo, but it's something I've actually used, right? You can use if you don't have the finances to, do Mojo, guess what? You can get a prepaid cell phone from Walmart, one of them smartphones. What do you call it? Straight Talk. Get one of those. Make sure the number is not blacklisted in any way. Make some phone calls. You can use that for texting as well, right? One-off text messaging. But pick up the phone and just call, right? Don't think about it too much. Use your cell phone. Who cares? Pick up the phone and just call. Stop thinking so much and start doing, okay? Respectfully. Can you wholesale a house that has a mortgage? Yes, you can. As long as your purchase price covers the mortgage, then you can wholesale. Can we talk about tenant occupied properties? Yes. What's up? What's your question? Type it in the comments. I'll be able to catch up to it. Can I buy a house that's, I just covered that one. Does the after repair value formula, ARV times 70% minus repairs, also work for the markets that's competitive like Texas? So that's a great question. Beyond Beauty, great question. You have to find out what investors are paying in your local market. So Some investors, I know areas like Phoenix and certain areas like Texas, they might be paying 80 cents on a dollar or 82 cents at one point, 75 cents on a dollar. Find out what the investors are paying in your area and make the adjustment in the formula. So, nationwide is the average is about 70%. But if in your area they're paying 82%, you use that number instead of the 70% and you make the adjustment accordingly. Hope that makes sense. Right? Great question, by the way. How do I pull the code violation and tax delinquent list in my city? Use Invest the Deal Pro. There's a list upgrade that you can purchase with it. If you'd like, just let us know. Get access to all of the lists. How much for the group class? You can go to dealprocoaching.com, talk to my assistant to show me, and she will provide you with all of the details. Dealprocoaching.com. Okay. Can the repair cost change with the market? Yes, but to be honest with, so the only places I've seen drastic, this is a great question too, Dean McWilliams. When it comes to repair costs, the only places I've seen drastic changes was in New York, California, and some of the high dollar states. So New York and California especially, right? Everywhere else is about the same, believe it or not. And I've rehabbed in several states, right? And I deal with coaching clients in several areas. The prices are about the same. And my coaching clients can vouch for me with that. I can tell them, look, this is going to cost about that much. They go to a contractor and it's about the same amount within a few $1,000s, right? And that's just by me eyeballing it through pictures or through a FaceTime, right? So in most of the country, the rehabs are about the same. If you talk in New York, the labor cost shoots up because that's where the money is going, really, in labor. And unless you find Tony, fix it again, Tony. You find a Tony in New York who can fix it for you and do a good job. Or you can go out to California and the prices are probably going to change there as well. And in certain parts of California, it's not that bad. I'm talking about major city areas. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Tony Turner, what about coaching? We do provide it. Dealprocoaching.com. Check it out. So there's a $50 deposit. You will get the $50 back if you don't qualify or if you don't want the coaching. You get the $50 back. It's just so that you show up, right? We don't want to set up appointments if people not show up. All right. So it's $50 a retainer. If you get the coaching, that comes off the top price. So the final price for the coaching will include your $50. If you can't do the coaching, then we go ahead and we refund the $50. I think that's all the questions we have, man. Anybody else? How current are the skip traced numbers? It just depends. The market changes so fast. We try to stay up to date with everything. I have business partners when it comes to my software, but we try to stay up to date with everything. Hope that answers your question. Why you didn't tell me I had something in my eye? I'm joking. But yeah, man, this has been a lot of fun. How many people enjoyed the call tonight? Many people enjoyed the call tonight. I definitely enjoyed it. This was a lot of fun. It's something I really thought about doing, over the last 2 or 3 days. I'm probably going to start doing these more frequently. I know I've been saying that, but at least once a month, I got to get to these because it's just a different way for me to not have to think so much when it comes to providing content. A lot of times when I'm doing these videos, I get in front of the camera, I just start talking and a video is formed out of that, but it's edited down and all this other stuff. This is on the spot content and we get real results on the spot. Look, we had somebody today just find an actual buyer and the call hasn't even ended yet, right? So if you're taking action while you're on these trainings, guess what? You're going to get results, man. This stuff works. You know, I don't do it just to breathe fresh air, right? I do it because it makes money. It keeps food on the table, right? It, you know, is fun. And that's the way you should be thinking as well. So I really appreciate you guys. I'm going to go catch the rest of the Knicks game. And they better not lose. If you're from Boston, we got beef. I'm joking. But look, shout out to everybody who stayed on until the very end. You know, check out the replay. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, all of that YouTuber stuff that they be doing. I'll be doing it too. But I had a lot of fun. Like it, subscribe, click the notification bell. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.